Have you ever asked God, hey God, where's my money? I know I have. Because you know you're walking in purpose, you're doing everything right, so you think, but your bank account says otherwise. So when does the money come? Trusting God isn't just about waiting for financial provision to show up. It's about understanding that timing or His timing is perfect. And sometimes that means waiting. But if you're ready for your breakthrough and you've been wanting to know where your breakthrough is, well, in this episode, we're going to find out. Welcome to another Sabbath School broadcast. I'm Apostle B, and we're continuing our series, Purpose, Provision, and Politics. And this question has come up as a result of some of my clients who asked me this, and I continue to get asked this all the time. So I'm tackling this question that many of us have wrestled with or are wrestling with currently, and that is, when will the money come? Because like me, you probably said, God, I've been faithful. I've been walking in my purpose. I've been doing everything that, I think I should be doing, but yet my bank account isn't reflecting that. Why does it seem like financial breakthrough is always just out of my reach? If that has been you, then let me know, because I know that's been me in time past. And it's a hard question, but it's a question that deserves an honest answer. And the short of it is, purpose doesn't always pay immediately. But that doesn't mean that you're off track. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're outside of God's will. In fact, you may be right where God wants you. And your financial wilderness season might be preparing you for something even greater. I knew that it was for me. My financial wilderness that I walked through was preparing me for where I am now and for the life that I am living now. You know, when you know that you're in purpose and you suspect that you're doing everything right according to God and His Word, but your bank account doesn't say the same thing, and you still may be struggling financially, and you may be wondering, you know, God, where's my provision? What's happening? What is taking place? And why doesn't it seem like I have enough? you know, you may wonder, where does the money come from and when will it actually start coming in a regular and consistent basis? Let's face it, God's timing requires patience, and that's the key. Let me say that again for some of you who are sitting way in the back. God's timing always requires patience, and that patience is the key because often our financial breakthrough doesn't come when we expect it. It comes when God has found out and believes that He can trust us, especially if we're not obeying God in our finances and we're not sowing in the right fields He's asking us in order to provide that harvest. And I'm not just talking about giving money necessarily. When I talk about putting our money in the right fields and in the right places, I'm talking about making sure they're doing the things that will bring us some gain, that will bring us some return, that will cause our lives to amount to something later and greater than ourselves. You see, trusting God for provision is not just about waiting on Him to do something or waiting on Him to provide something or waiting on Him to meet a need. He's already promised to do all of that. It's about understanding that His perfect timing gives us the strategic opportunities to plant in the right harvest fields, to do the things with our finances He is requiring us to do. And we can go through various scriptures. And I've got a couple here for you tonight. But Matthew 25 talks clearly about those stewards that God has entrusted with His gifts, talents, and abilities and His resources. And some of them did well with them, others did not. And I want to use an analogy today or look at a persona today and to help us further understand this a little bit more. And I want us to look at the story of Joseph. And if you read anything in Genesis about Joseph and you read the story of Joseph and Joseph's life, you can understand that Joseph was up and down, up and down. He went through a roller coaster ride in his journey. But it was through that ride that he learned something about his positioning in God. Joseph's story is a good example that purpose comes before promotion. Joseph was seeking to become who he was. And in becoming who he was, he had to make sure that he was positioned in the right place in order to receive what God always had prepared for him, what he saw as a young boy, as he saw in his father's house, what he saw people bowing down to him and becoming, and all of that. And in Genesis chapter 41, and I want you to take some time to read chapters 38 through 42 so that you can get a little bit more understanding of what I'm talking about here. But in Genesis 41, it says here that Pharaoh said to Joseph that since God has informed you of the things that were to come, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You should be over my house, and according to your command, all of my people shall do homage or bow down. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. In other words, everybody in this kingdom will bow to you except when it comes to the throne. They will bow to me when it comes to sitting in that place of authority. But in every other matter, the people will listen and respect you. Now, Joseph just didn't get there overnight. It took him some time to get to this place. However, the key here is that Joseph was anointed by God from the beginning, from generations in his past and in his lineage for this place of greatness. But he had to endure betrayal. He had to endure slavery. He had to endure suffering. He had to endure prison. He had to endure his brothers leaving him for dead. All of this came before his financial breakthrough came. And many times, as Joseph wanted to quit. Joseph wanted to give up. Joseph thought that it was too much for him to bear. Do I have a witness out there? I know I've been in that place. God, this is just too much. But God said he wouldn't put more on us than we're able or capable of bearing. However, Joseph's lesson throughout it all was that he learned that sometimes you go through a wilderness season to refine your character and your nature in order to prepare you for greater responsibility. See, we've all had that dream. We've all had that vision of being great, of doing great things, of achieving great things, of having great things and wonderful things. However, what's not revealed to us during that time is the journey we must go through in order to arrive at that place. You've heard me say this before. Many people get excited about the prophecy of the future of their life and what is to be. However, they don't get as excited when the reality of walking that out in order to become what you have seen takes place. Because what happens is the delay doesn't mean that God isn't providing. It doesn't mean that God isn't with you. It doesn't mean that God isn't walking with you. He is. And it's through that journey and through that process, he's preparing you for a greater future. And oftentimes that future requires action from you and me. It requires us to do something. It requires us to walk through something. It requires us to live out something. It requires us to become something. And as you heard me say many times, and if you've never got my book, I want to encourage you to get that because in it I tell the story of how I was being prepared along my wilderness journey, along my journey to become what it is I had always seen myself being and doing and living and achieving. And yet I had to walk through the wilderness in order to get to the promise. Are you with me? So you may be walking in the wilderness right now. You may be walking in a tough time right now. You may be walking in a tough challenge right now. And I'm not talking time necessarily in weeks, months. It could be years. Because the second thing I want to point out to you, it is the power of due season. Oftentimes, our due season is through a process of journeys of years. It's not just overnight. We see trickles of God's provision, of his hand, of his blessing. But when we begin to walk in that consistency of the thing, it is after a season of God testing and trying and proving us that we are capable now of handling what it is he now wants to make us responsible for. Are you with me? And Galatians 6:9 speaks clearly to this, and I want you to understand this. Because in Galatians 6:9, what the scripture says to us is this. It says patience is a key here. It said, let us not become discouraged in doing well or doing good. For in due time we will reap if we do not become weary. And how do we become weary? We become weary in waiting. Many a believer have become weary in waiting because they say, God is taking too long. I'm not getting no help out here. Ain't nobody talking to me. He said, God, I've been waiting a long time. When is it going to happen? When is the breakthrough going to happen? When is my due season going to take place? When is it going? When is it? When is it? When is it? Let's take out that. Take out that. Patience isn't just about passive waiting. It is an active opportunity during those seasons to prove out your faithfulness. Can you still have your praise and dance and shout on when things aren't going as well as when they are going well? Can you still lift your hands in praise? Can you still thank Him for the not so good times as you do the bad times? God will bring the harvest in due season, and that due season is the season He sees fit, that we are now ready and capable of handling what it is He has said we would have all along. My question to you is, are you growing weary waiting for your breakthrough? Are you growing weary waiting for your time of harvest? See, you're not alone. Many believers have become weary. They're looking at the economy and the world system and who's running the country instead of trusting the one who is in control of all things. Let me say that again. Many people are looking at the economy and the country and who's running it instead of looking and trusting in the one who is in control of all of it. Because if you stay faithful and you keep doing what it is you're required to do, you keep pressing, you keep believing, you keep trusting, you keep doing all the things the scripture tells us to do in our season and in our periods of waiting, as Galatians said, we will reap because we haven't grown weary. We haven't given up. We haven't quit. We haven't fainted in our heart. And I don't care how much you talk about it on the outside, your heart is what God is looking at. He's looking at, is your heart still right with me? Is your heart still believing and trusting? Is your heart still willing to walk and obey? Or have you gotten weary in that area of your life? Good evening, daughter. Good to see you. So when we're talking about seeing our provision and our increase, it's through a period of waiting and trusting and believing because God is proving out a nature and our character to see my third point, and that is, are you ready for increase? See, we think we're ready. We do. But are you ready for the increase God really wants to bring into your life? Because oftentimes we think we're ready, but we're really not. And Luke chapter 12 talks about this readiness. Luke 12 and 48 is what I'm talking about right now. And I want you to understand this. Luke 12 and 48 says, but the one who did not know it and committed deeds worthy of a flogging will receive but few. But everyone who has been given much, much will be required, and to whom they have entrusted much of him, they will ask all of the more. Now, this is key because you have to understand something. Many of us has been given much, and I'm not just talking about much things in the form of material things. I'm talking about we've been given much spiritual ability, much spiritual acumen, much spiritual prowess in order to do things. Many of you out there, you're claiming that you're a prophet this, and you are evangelist that, and you are a preacher this, and this, that, and the next thing. Well, if God has given you much of that, He's testing much of that in your life because much of that will require you to give out of much of that. And in your giving out of much of that, therein lies your breakthrough. Therein lies your increase. Therein lies your return. See, we're waiting for something that we are actually in control of getting because God has already put it in our hand. He has put it in our nature, in our character, in our being, in our creation as He. We have been created in His image and in His likeness and in His fortitude. And so we have the ability and the capability to call those things that be not as though they were. Here's how the Son of Man was able to do this, the Son of God. He was able to do this because He was in right standing with His Father. And in so doing, He knew that even through His season and time of testing and trial and trouble, He could still command things to be, and they were. See, the key point here is that you're being tested with what you have now. Say that again for those in the back. You're being tested with what you have now, with what you are capable of doing now, with what you have been given to do now, with the assignment that you have been given to do now. You're being tested with that. And if you're found to be unfaithful in that, then God sees you as unfaithful in giving you anything in addition to that. Did you get that? Because if you're faithful in that, in the small of that, in the small beginning of that, in the smallness of that, then you'll be ready for the larger of that. You'll be ready for the greater of that. You'll be ready for the increase on that. Did you catch that? Because if you're unfaithful in it now, you can't stand, you can't trust, you can't pray, you can't believe, you can't remain in faith, you can't remain consistent. You're up and down in what you do and how you believe and how you work and how you do the things God has called you to do, then you're going to be inconsistent and unfaithful when He gives you more of that. So why would He put more on you than you're capable of bearing? Did you catch that? Because are you positioning yourself to handle the increase? It is through those times of testing and trial and trouble that you are being positioned and moved in position through the things that you'll go through. The Bible said that the Son of God, listen, He learned obedience by the things that He suffered. Your suffering should be causing you to learn obedience, should be causing you to learn how to obey in what you have already been given. Sometimes we think it's about our deserving, but it's not about our deserving, it's about our stewardship. I'm going to say that again for those in the back. It's not about our deserving, it is about our stewardship of what we actually already have. See, many folks aren't getting it and are missing it because they want to keep telling God how deserving they are. Well, we can't tell the judge how deserving we are of his clemency. He gets to decide how deserving we are. Once he has weighed all the facts into evidence and he's reviewed the entire matter and looked over the entire case, he now determines our deservingness. We don't get to determine that. We can't say to God, well, God, I've done all of this, and God, I've done all of that, and God, I've been a good boy, and I've been a good girl, and I've given this, and I've given that, and I've done this, and I've done that. That's self-righteousness. We can't talk to the king in the form of how deserving we are. We can only demonstrate to the king in our actual stewardship of how well we have used what he's already given us. And if God has given you anything, anything at all, then you have a responsibility to maximize the uses of that thing. You can't keep asking God for stuff and you ain't used what he already gave you. Say that again for the people in the back. You can't keep asking God for stuff when you haven't used what he's already given you. Why would he give you any more? Because if God gave you your financial gain today, if he gave you your breakthrough today, would you be able to sustain it? Would you be able to maintain it? Would you be able to capitalize on it? Back to Matthew 24. If you're a wise steward, would you be able to take what he's given you, go out and use it in such a way, in such a manner to multiply it and then bring it back to him multiplied, not depleted, not exhausted, not wasted, not hidden, but totally used and then multiplied so he could say, well done. And many people I'm not going to be able to have that testimony. He's not going to be able to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over the list. You've been faithful over the little. You've been faithful over the least. Now I'm going to make you ruler over the much. See, I'm trying to help you to understand what it takes to get to the level of consistency in your life to where not just are your needs met, but you have more than enough. You have abundance now for the consistency to be able to be obedient in whatsoever area God calls you to. Because God is never late. He never misses. He never comes short. He's always on time. And I know we've heard that, and we've heard that, and we've heard that. But until you've lived that and you've experienced that, you really don't know the reality of that. Your season of waiting is just preparing you for the greater things God has for you. And don't get weary in your season of waiting. Don't get weary in your time of testing and trial. Don't get weary in your troublesome times. Don't get weary because it's not happening in the time frame you think or you expect or you need. It's happening in the time frame, in the season he has determined it to be. Are you with me? I hope that you are. Listen, did you learn anything from this lesson? Did it speak to you in any way? And if it has, then make sure that you check out the previous lessons that are attached to this and how and see how the provision God has for you is in your hand, really. It's right in front of you. And it's just waiting for you to take the right action and do the parts that you're responsible of doing so that it can happen for you. And if you stay tuned for the next parts in this series, I've got some more useful strategies and tips that I'm going to be sharing with you. And if you've been following me at any time on social media, you're able to see the things that I've been sharing and how I've been sharing those things and giving you ample opportunity to start capitalizing on the time and season that we're living in. I believe that we're living not just in the last days and in the final days. I also believe that we are living in the greatest times in history in order for us to start receiving the great wealth transfer, the great wealth transfer that God has been promising us, the time that we have been waiting for and believing for. And I want us to continue this conversation. And I want to hear from you. And I thank God for those that I do hear from during the week who let me know the things that I'm sharing is helpful to them, useful to them, and they appreciate it. Thank you so much for all of you who do that. And for those of you who sitting on the bench and sitting on the sideline, still quiet for whatever reason because you can't take me, you don't like what I'm saying, or whatever the case may be. I hope that you just get past that and you start listening to the wisdom that is coming from the words and you start listening to the thing that you need to right now so that your life can start improving for the better. Drop me a comment if you got a question, if you got a comment, if you've been waiting for something to happen and take place and you're looking for some breakthrough in your life. Drop me a comment as to what one thing or what one area where you have had to trust God's timing. You're in a place right now where you got to trust His timing. You can't do it on your own. It's not happening by any of your own necessarily means, but you're in a place right now where you have to trust God for your next move and for your next step and for your next breakthrough. And if that's you, I want to hear from you today because I want to specifically address that with you and help you understand where you are and how to move on to the next phase of your life. All right? Well, listen, like and subscribe this video. And if this message has spoken to you in any way, shape, or form, hit that like button. Share it out. Subscribe to the channel. Set your notifications so that you know when I'm on for more faith-driven wisdom tips. And listen, share this out with someone who you know needs to hear this today and send this video to a friend. Remember, God is never late. His timing is perfect. And the season is now for your breakthrough. And I sincerely believe that, or I wouldn't say it, because I know the season is now for our breakthrough and the breakthrough of our family. I want to thank you for watching today. I want to say shalom, and I pray that I'll see you in the next video and that you continue watching and tuning in. And until next time, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you and make His face shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and grant unto you His shalom, His peace, and that you continually walk with Him both now and all the days of your life until you and I meet once again. Until then, take care and God bless. Peace and blessings and shalom and shalom. Bye for now.